I'm going to do some basic formatting. Now, within Excel, getting the text and the numbers on the screen is all pretty straightforward. Making it more presentable and easier to read is also just as important. So, for example, here I've just got the information on the page in the way that it was entered in, which is okay, but it's not perfect. On the Home tab of the ribbon at the top, up here we've got a whole bunch of options, most of which relate to formatting. In fact, with the exception of the editing group at the end, they're pretty much all to do with formatting in one way or another. Now, if I want to do some font formatting and I'm not sure what thing to use, I can just hover over the letters and it's all pretty self-explanatory. One of the useful things about hovering over the buttons, though, is it does tell you the shortcut. So if you want to know the keyboard shortcut for bold, for example, you can see that it's Control-B. So that's one of those things that might save you seconds of time. Or wrap text. I wonder if it tells you what that is. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's Alt and Return. But anyway, so you can get to things quite quickly there. So, for example, if I want to make all the headings down the side bold and all the headings across the top bold, then all I need to do is select them and press the B button for bold. I'm going to click on the column heading to get the whole column bold, just because that'll be easier. And the same thing with the row. I'm going to click on the row letter and press the B to make them all bold. Easy. What I also want to do is sort the alignment out. The alignment defaults to general, and general means that if it's text, it's aligned to the left because we write from the left. If it's numbers, it's aligned to the right because of decimal places. So it means that headings like this look a bit rubbish because the number's over to the right and the text is over to the left. So again, I'm going to select the whole row and I'm going to use the alignment tool here to align it to the right. Hurrah, it all looks very slightly better. I'm also going to move it away from the edge a bit. So I'm going to insert a column at the beginning so that it's no longer butted up against the column. And we do that by selecting the column that you wanted to be inserted before, or that you wanted to be inserted on the left of. Right, yeah, that's it. So if I select the column and then right mouse click and then click on Insert, that's inserted a column to the left of it. And I can do the same thing with the row. And if I select the whole row, right mouse click Insert, it'll insert a row above it, like so. Easy as that. Now, if you want to insert multiple rows, so for example, if I suddenly realised I've got figures for area 5, 6, and 7, then I can select here to insert a row. But if I want to insert 3 rows, I can just click on that number, drag down, choose those 3 rows, right mouse click Insert, and that'll insert 3 rows. So I can now have 5, 6, 7, easy as that. Because I included the space in my formula down here, you can see that it's also adjusted the formula. So I can now add them and I don't have to put a new calculation in. However, I don't want those, so I'm going to get rid of them. So if I select 3 rows, right mouse click and delete, it deletes them. Easy as that. What I am going to do is put a heading at the top. So I'm going to put, I want it to be right in the center. So if I put it here, and I put departmental sales, that almost is the center, which kind of ruins my plan. But it's not exactly in the center. So if I click on it and I go up to the alignment tools here, I can have left, center, or right. And if I click on center, it centers exactly in that column, which still isn't the center. But I want this heading to be exactly in the center of that area there, which it really is very close to. But that's not the point. So to do that, what I would do is I'd select that whole area, including the cell that's got the text in it. Then I can click on Merge and Center, which is this button here. If I click there, it now turns it into a single cell, which is a bit weird, but it's a title, so it doesn't matter. And it centers it. So that is now just one big cell. So although it was quite close to being centered anyway, now it's perfectly centered. That comes into its own when you've got 2 columns. So if I take this stuff here, if this was all the information I'd got and I wanted to put a heading across those 2, then it doesn't matter how I do it, it's never going to look right unless I select that, do Merge and Center, and then put something in there. then that will be centered. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. So imagine that never happened. In fact, imagine it never happened. Ooh. Right, okay. We saw nothing there. Moving on. That's inserting rows, columns, and sorting out the alignment. Next, I'm going to do some further formatting. As I said earlier, there's loads of buttons up here that do various formatting things, and they pretty much cover almost everything everybody needs. However, they all have a little flyout, and by all of them, I mean most of them have a flyout. And what the flyout does is it takes you to the old style dialog box. So if I go to alignment, I can click on that and I get the old style formatting cells dialog box, and it brings up the alignment tab. And if I click on this one, I'd get the font tab, and if I click on this, I get a number tab. It's all pretty predictable. But if I type in something, let's go with a nice big number. And then if I select that and then click on any of these flyouts, or just right mouse click and go to format cells, doesn't matter which way I do it, I'll end up with the format cells dialog box, which looks like this. And I'm just going to run through all 6 of those tabs. So if I start with the first one, make sure you're comfortable for this because it does go on a bit. But the first one is number. Now, these are really important because it can be the difference between a very easily understood and well-received spreadsheet and a spreadsheet that is just difficult to look at. Now, you can get to the number formats by going up to this section here and just clicking on the drop-down and selecting from the formats. Then you can kind of jigger and change using these buttons here to add commas and add decimal places. But you can't beat the old style way of doing it. Now, the way this old system works is you've got a category, you've got a sample of how it will look, and then you've got a whole load of you've got a whole section here of changes you can make to it. So the first one is general, and you can't do anything to general. It shows it as the way it perceives the number to be. So if I type 1, it shows 1. If I type 1.99, it shows 1.99. If I type in 1.50, it shows 1.5 because it's just numbers. It'll only put as many decimal places as are necessary. So that's not a very useful format, or not a very flexible format, but it's the default one. The next one's number. Number is probably the most useful. What this does is it defaults to putting in 2 decimal places, although we can change that to as few as 0 or as many as 30. You might think, why do I want 30 decimal places? But sometimes if you're doing something like bill of materials where you're taking loads of components or a very small fraction of costs, you might want loads of decimal places. If you need it, you'll know. Let's put it that way. There's an option of having a 1000 separator. If you tick that, you get a 1000 separator. So every 3 digits you get a comma, which looks like something that is really unnecessary. However, in my opinion, if you're dealing with tens of thousands or higher, a 1000 separator just makes the numbers so much easier to look at. You can look at it straight away and go, right, there's 2 commas, that's millions. There's 1 comma, that's thousands. Yeah, straight away, because otherwise you can get a bit colourblind when you're looking at big figures. Below that, we've got the options for negative numbers. You can have minus, you can have red, you can have red and minus. You can do whatever format is preferable. Then move on to currency. If I click on currency, it's identical to number, except we get to choose a symbol. Yay! Every drummer's dream. Most of them are just pounds, euros, or dollars, but they have no effect on your calculation. There's all kinds of different versions of currencies, but like I say, it doesn't really mean a great deal because he's just going to put a symbol at the beginning. So if I change that, well, I'll just leave on pounds. Welsh pounds, really? I think the reason that they have different versions of the same symbol is just so that it can be interrogated later. So if you've got a column of Scottish pounds, apart from the fact that you can never spend them anywhere, you could actually use it later on if they ever got independence and they were suddenly worth confetti prices. Anyway, if I apply that by saying OK, you can see what it looks like. Yay, £43,000. The reason I'm doing that is because now if I go up here and click on the flyout, we can look at the next one after currency, which is accounting. Accounting looks like it's the same as currency, but it isn't. It gives you the option of loads of different symbols from the list, all the same ones, where you can choose a Bitcoin. I never noticed that on there before. No heck. Anyway, you can choose whatever currency type it is. You can choose decimal places. But what accounting does is, well, it does a couple of things. When I hit OK, you'll see it positions it slightly differently. It puts a space between the symbol and the number. And it does this so that all of the currency symbols line up, which is a nice touch because if you're producing a spreadsheet with a variety of currencies, or even if you're just putting the pound sign in there, it just looks a lot nicer having them all lined up. It deals with minus figures in a very strict way, like so. And it makes zeros look really cool. Yeah, very accounting. But that's the accounting format, so highly recommended. Then we get on to dates, and you'll know about dates because we went through it all the other day. Every date is a number, every number is a date, potentially, or somewhere around. Every date is a number, every number potentially can be a date. Yeah, that's what I mean. They represent the number of days since the beginning of the last century, so obviously 43,948. It's today's date, of course. And you can choose any format you like because that number will convert to today's date however you do it. And if you want to type a date in, then you just type in number oblique, type in day oblique month oblique year, or don't bother with the year and it will default to the system year. And then if you don't like the way it looks, go into format cells and choose a different one from the list. And if you can't find one on the list that you like the look of, then go to custom where you can create your own date format. D for day of the month, DD for day of the month, that's 2 digits, DDD abbreviated day of the week, 4 Ds day of the week as a full word, etc, etc. Same thing with months and years, and you can put obliques in there and other bits and bobs to make it look interesting. Yay! September 5th, that's a really awful date format. What's next on the list? We have time. Time is exactly the same principle as dates, in that if you type it in the right way, then you can do calculations on it, which is really useful. If you don't like the format, you can choose from those. If you want to create your own, you can just go to custom and type in a time format. And the way to enter it in is hour, minute, seconds. You don't need seconds. But it's useful if you want to see how many hours a journey took, or somebody who's working on a job, or how many hours that timesheet will be charged out at, that kind of thing. So if I change something to time format, although it's not going to do a lot with, oh, it's going to do a lot, fair enough. There isn't any time in there, it's midnight. But if I type in, let's say, 2 o'clock and then 3:57, then I can say equals this one minus this one, and of course the answer is 1 hour 57 minutes. So, bless you. That was some quick timing with the microphone mute. What a way we live in, where we get to the stage where it's like, I've got to sneeze, quick, mute my microphone. However, so that's that lot. I'm going to delete all that. Right, move it all up one. Okay, so let's put another number in. What we've got now, percentages. Percentages, yeah, straightforward enough. Again, as I explained the other day, the way a percent works in Excel is it moves decimal place by 2 digits and puts a symbol next to it. So if I type in 1 and I turn the number 1, the decimal number 1, into a percentage, then it's 100%, because 1 is 100%. A lot of people don't grasp that, or think it doesn't make sense. But if you think of it more about 0.5, if you take half and you turn that into percentage, it becomes 50%. So that way you can understand why sometimes the results aren't what you expect to see on the screen. And so percentage will just allow you to do that. Sometimes if you use the default percent button, you might end up with no decimal places, which is no good if you're trying to work out 46.3%. So you can just have decimal places. Fractions, yay! Least useful thing I've ever seen in Excel. I mean, this is really weird. Whoever wants to see 1.5 displayed as 1 space 1 oblique 2, I don't know, but this allows you to do it. Once I had a customer that told me a useful use for this, and I'd been asking everybody, and then one day one of my clients on a training course said, it's really useful if you're typing up a recipe and you want to say how many spoons of something or how many cups of sugar. 1.5. I was like, okay, that was it. After that, I can't see any reason. Almost as good as scientific format. This is the one that makes it look like something weird. It throws the E in there. Scientific format is used all the time when it finds that numbers are too big to go in cells. And it just converts it to that, because scientific is great for taking a big number and making it smaller, or make it take less space, let's put it that way. But it's not good for slightly big numbers. We put it this way, it's got to be a really big number. If it's millions, not worth using scientific format. It's got to be billions, or preferably hundreds of billions. It's got to be distances between planets kind of size, because otherwise you might as well just use decimal. No one uses it commercially, maybe with the exception of solicitors on their invoices. Other than that, there's no reason to use scientific formats because it's just too big. That's just again in my opinion. Then we move on to text. This is useful. This allows you to treat a number as text. Useful, huh? You're thinking, why? The reason why is so that you can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it stays as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can do that a couple of ways. You can either, well, a variety of ways. You can either change it at the toolbar up there. You can set it in formatting as I've just done, or you can put in an inverted comma, the one on the @ key, and then type in a number, and then it will treat that number as text. Because if you just type a number in normally, it will treat it as a number, which in this case is not what I wanted. Or if I do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it'll take 0 off the front. So sometimes you want to treat a number as text, and the reason you do that is if those numbers aren't real numbers. Like telephone numbers aren't numbers because you don't calculate on them. Serial numbers aren't numbers, policy numbers aren't numbers. And so sometimes by changing a whole column to text, it can just make life a lot easier. Okay, back to my formatting. What's left? Special. We don't get any special formats in England. That's rubbish. No one cares. They get any in New Zealand? No. Singapore? No. Oddly enough, I don't know any country that gets any special formats except for America. I can't remember what America's called anymore. What's it called? USA? States? English United States. There we go. And they get zip codes and social security numbers. But it's just a format. And I think you can add to these formats, but you can create your own in custom anyway. And so, for example, if I wanted to put in a bank sort code, I could say 00-00-00. In fact, luckily enough, that would make a perfect bank sort code because it's a 6-digit number. And so if I type that in, that custom format will apply to this cell. I could apply it to the whole column if I was storing sort codes. And when I say OK, it'll make no difference because it still thinks it's text. However, if I type it in again, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bing, it's now in the sort code format. That can be really useful if you've got policy numbers that all start with a company registration or a policy type thing. So, for example, if I go in there, go back to format cells, If I wanted all of my policy numbers to begin with POL because they're a policy and co, and then there was 8 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then I'd type that in. When I hit OK, it will give me this result. Ta-da! A policy number that begins with PON. However, that's hopefully to give you the general gist of it. That's number formatting. So if I wanted all of these numbers to appear in a particular way, I could select them by clicking and dragging, and then I can go up to that flyout or use these tools or right mouse click and go to format cells. Either way, I'll get formatting cells, and in here I can choose a format. So I could say I want accounting, and then when I click on OK, I've now got accounting, which looks wholly inappropriate for those cells. What I could do is I could just get rid of those decimal places. If I use this tool here, that would decrease a decimal, and now it looks very slightly more reasonable. So that's number formats. What I'm going to do now is put a bit of text in here and go to the next bit of formatting cells. Formatting cells, next tab is alignment. Most of this stuff, in fact all of it now you can do up here, which is quite a breakthrough. Never used to be able to. So all of this stuff is available on the toolbar. However, this is the way of doing it manually. Horizontal alignment, whether it's left, right, centre, or general, where it just bases it on what you've typed. So that's easy, that's going across the cell. Vertical alignment is where it appears in the cell, which is this tool here. If you make the cells really deep, by default, it appears at the bottom, which for headings is really rubbish because you want it to appear at the top, and then they'll all line up still. So that's where you change it. You can put an indent on there as well, so that all the sales areas could line up to the left, except one of them I might want to indent it by 2 characters so that it stands out for some reason. There's a bunch of controls here where I can make it wrap the text, which will make it go on to the next line, which I can also achieve by doing Alt and Return. Is it Alt or Control? Yeah, one of those. Or I can press the button for wrap text there. Shrink to fit, there you go, you can't get that from anywhere else. That's quite a unique feature. If I tick that, when I start typing something a little bit too big for the cell, it makes it a bit smaller. People get carried away with this though. Oops, ridiculous. So that's the shrink to fit. The other thing here is orientation. If you've got a narrow column, so for example with these columns, if I just wanted to have a 2-digit number in there and I wanted to have the full month name at the top of it, it'd be a huge waste of space for that heading to be all the way across. So it makes more sense to have it at an angle or going down the page or written down the page. So this will have the text written sort of down the page. So it will still take up a lot of space, but it won't be as wide. Whereas here, if I set it to 90 degrees, then it doesn't take up as much space, but it's on its end. But I can also drag that blob and have it at any degree. So I can have it at 45 or 37 or any weird angle that I want, or minus as well. So it's one of these features they put far too much time into, and you can adjust it from there. But if I click on OK, you can see how it might be useful to somebody one day. Anyway, that is alignment. Then we have font formatting. Loads of different typefaces to choose from. There's a sample here. Some of these typefaces aren't suitable. So for example, if I use something like WebDings or Wingdings, they're not suitable for day-to-day use for our text and numbers, but of course they are handy if you want to have a tick on a list or you want a little desert island or something. But there's a few things like that. You know, WebDings has got some interesting stuff in there. Let's turn that bold off because that looks awful. But you can have everything in either regular italic, bold, or bold italic, and you can have any size you like. If the size isn't listed, you can enter your own in there. When you get to the big sizes, they start to jump a quite a big step. So 36 might be too big. So there's your bicycle, Sue. And you can carry a shield as well. Well, you might get it as a present, who knows? 36 is too big and 28 is too small, then you can type in 32 and it'll say it's the right size. You can also have wonderful effects like strike through, which makes it like it's been crossed out, or superscript, which raises it above the text, and subscript that drops it below the text. So superscript would be like 25th of December, the TH. Subscript would be like the 2 in H2O. So that's font formatting. The first, let's get rid of that row because it's a real mess now. The first 3 tabs in this dialog box are all about the appearance of the individual cell, the font, the number, the alignment of it, the appearance of it. The next 3 are something slightly different. This is where we can do borders. And the border tool here, you can see, is a wealth of user friendliness, as long as you know what you want to achieve first of all. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to decide how I want my borders to look. And as when I do this in a classroom, I normally write on the whiteboard. I'm now going to endeavour to write in my little homemade Excel whiteboard down here, which would be a whole new world of entertainment. But here goes. So if I click on the pen, I'm going to leave that on, leave it on black, I think. Yeah. I now have a nice little marker pen. So I'm going to put borders around this. And what I want is a border, a big thick border around the edge, like so. Oh, it'll be a bit more straighter than that, but I won't have a telephone cable in the way, so that will look better. Then I'm going to have, where it says sales area 1, to the right of that, I'm going to have a line going down. And then where it's got the month names at the top, I'm going to have a line going underneath. And then where it says total sales, I'm going to have total sales down here, but then above it, I'm going to have a double line, like so. Oh, it's amazing how close I got to it, looking acceptable. And everything else will be separated by dotted lines going down the page. Boom, 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 boom. And dotted lines going, I'm getting carried away now. This is what lockdown does for you. I did it to drawing. Because you haven't got a whiteboard. Right, so it might not look very good there, but when I do it for real, it'll look a lot worse. However, I've now just got to turn that pen off. Right, so borders then. There's a whole variety of ways of doing borders. You can select an individual cell and go up to here and format exactly the border that you're looking for. Or you can grab a bunch of cells and go up here and then choose one border at a time. Again, that works quite well. You can use a draw tool and pretty much do what I've just done, but have a border turn up. I don't know whether that's actually any quicker. That might be the way to do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it old school by selecting the whole area that I want to work on and then going back to format cells. So click in the middle of it. Within format cells, I'm going to use this old style dialog box. Now, it doesn't look user friendly, but it really isn't as unfriendly as you think. All you have to do is start on this side and work through it. First of all, what colour do I want the line? Well, I'll leave it on its automatic setting, so I'll get black and white. Then what kind of line do I want? Well, the first line I'm going to do is this big thick one around the edge. So I'm going to choose a nice big thick one. And then here, where do I want to put the lines? Well, there's a bunch of presets at the top. And when you're used to using this, the presets will make perfect sense. But for now, we can ignore those. There's a bunch of buttons around the side which are there to make it easy. They don't, they just confuse people. So we can ignore those as well. Here is the area I want to work on. Now that represents the top, this represents the right, this the bottom, that the left. This represents every line going across, and this is every line going down. And the reason it does it like that is because otherwise you might as well just be drawing it on the main screen, so that will save some time. But it does mean there's a limit to what you can do in one go. So I'll have to make different selections to do different bits, but I can achieve quite a lot in one hit. Now, if I click there, that'll give me the thick line across the top that I'm looking for. And you'll see, as I click, the corresponding button becomes depressed, I believe the expression is. I'm sure it will cheer up once I've finished, but it becomes pressed down. That's because the way that you can use these buttons is you can click there instead. I don't think there's any, I think it just confuses people having those options, but anyway, they're there. So although we won't see an effect until I hit OK, that will eventually be the line going all the way around the outside. What we'll do now is that dotted line. So if I choose a nice dotted line like that one and click here, that'll be every line going down, and here will be every line going across. And then when I click on OK, ta-da! Still can't see it until I click away from it. When I click away from it, ta-da! There's some lines. If I really want to make it stand out, I could go to View and then untick Grid Lines. This is an important thing to know about, because if somebody does that, it makes the spreadsheet look horrible and you need to know how to switch it back on. So View and Grid Lines turns the grid lines on and off. But I'm going to leave that off for now. So what I want next is my thick line across the top and the one down the right hand side of the areas. So if I select top and then go to right mouse click Format Cells, it's now only showing me 2 cells. That's because I've only got 1 row selected. And so the bottom line there, that's the one that I want to be a thin solid line. So I'm going to choose a thin line and I'll click there to replace it. Say OK, that's done. In fact, I'm going to do this top line as well while I'm here. Select that, Format Cells, and again 2 cells showing. And then I'm going to choose that double line, click there. You probably can't tell it's a double line on the projection, I'd normally say, but on this screen, because I imagine it's quite small. But anyway, when I click on OK, I should then have the double line. Yay! And the final bit is to put a line down to the right of here. Doing this, it would be quicker just to use the tool at the top, but that's not the point. The point is, I'm on a roll now. So I'm going to go to Format Cells. And here again, you can only see 2 cells, but the reason for that is because there's only 1 column, so there's no line down the middle. But again, I'm going to choose a thin line, click there, say OK, and hey presto, there's my borders, which is pretty much what I wanted to achieve. Although I think it does looks a bit closer like that. Let's get rid of these. Yeah, in fact, let's stop deleting this because this could take ages. Completely unnecessary, time wasting. Right, moving on. So even if I delete those, it still won't go away. Even if I just keep hitting delete. Never mind. Oh, I know what's better than that. There we go. Pushed it over to the right. So that's Format Cells almost complete. What I want to do now is make these areas stand out. So if I select that, and if I want to select this one as well, I can hold down the Control key and make the next selection. That way I've got 2 areas selected and I can do it all in one go. Then if I go back into Format Cells, I can go into the next tab, which is Fill. Now you can fill these with a pattern. And if I go to Pattern Style, if I was printing this out on a black and white printer, I could choose that grey. When I click on OK, it'll grey it out on the screen, a bit dull on the screen, but printing on a mono printer will look quite effective, especially if I'm designing a form or something. But if I'm using a colour printer, or if it's just going to be on the screen, well, might as well make the most of it. And to do that, I can go back into Format Cells, and I can choose any of these colours, or I can go to more colours, where you've got a whole bunch there, or I'm going to custom, where you've got the usual limit of 16.8 million colours to choose from, and that includes pink. Is that pink? That's a sort of pink. And then click on OK, and it looks, oh, pretty! What princess wouldn't want a spreadsheet to look like that? Or you could have it green or blue or other colours that should not be together. Let's go to Format Cells again. And in Fill, I can choose a colour like green, nice solid green. It's always nice to do a bit of colouring in on a Monday morning. Nice solid blue. Or I can go for a fill effect. If I decide I want my totals to really stand out, I can choose those. I can centre them. None of this that I'm about to do now is in any way appropriate. However, I'm going to go into Format Cells and go to Fill Effects, and in there I'm going to choose a 2-colour fill effect, blue and red. And I'm going to make it come from the centre and do that. And those are the bonus prizes at the bottom. So needless to say, you can do lots of things with formatting. The final tab is protection. And this is for people, well, I think if you design a spreadsheet that looks like that, you probably need some kind of protection, if only from yourself. However, this is a really useful feature that's quite difficult to demonstrate, really. But I shall. By default, all of the cells are locked, okay, which means you can't enter anything in, you can't delete anything, you can't change anything. So you can see here it says locked. They're all locked, but that's not. It doesn't become activated until you turn protection on. So if I was to switch on protection now, all the cells would be locked, so I wouldn't be able to do anything to them. So the idea is that if I want somebody to be able to enter the figures for area 1 and nothing else, and I was just about to say to them, right, here's access to my spreadsheet, enter the figures for area 1, I could go right mouse click, format cells, go to protection, and then unlock area 1. And when I say OK, it will look and feel exactly the same. But if I then go down to here and go to protect sheet, you can give it a password, because that'll obviously help to stop people unprotecting it. I'm not going to though, but say OK. Now my worksheet's protected, and I can email it to somebody and say, enter your figures for area 1. And they'll go, nah, I want to enter stuff for area 2. And it won't work because it's protected, or they want to delete that. They can't. But they can enter stuff in for area 1, like so. So that's worksheet protection. And then all you do to turn it off is just right mouse click, go to unprotect sheet, and then I can enter figures in wherever I like. So it's quite a useful tool, but if you need to use it, or if you need reminding of how it works, just ask. You'll find it on format cells and protection, and you literally just unlock the ones that you want people to have access to, and then turn protection on. Okay, so that is pretty much everything that's useful or that most people need to know about formatting cells, the day-to-day stuff. One thing I will say about though, which is a really useful thing when it comes to formatting, is Format Painter. If you've not used Format Painter before, it's a useful thing in Excel, in Word, in Outlook, in anything really, PowerPoint, any kind of Office product. And the idea is that if you have something in a cell and you think, oh man, I'd like to have that wonderful format that's up there applied to this cell here, then rather than spend seconds recreating it, what I can do is click on that wonderful format, click on Format Painter, and then it will allow me to paint that format, like so. Easy as that. Or if I say, actually, I want to have these wonderful designs applied up here, I could do that. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that. Or if I really like that effect so much, I want to apply it to lots of places. But the only thing you can do with Format Painter to deviate from the plan is to double click on it. And if you double click on it, it stays switched on. So I can click there, I can click there, I can do some cells there, there. And then when I'm bored, I can either press escape or click on it again and it turns off, like so. And then I can double click on it again and I can choose all of those, and click to turn it off. And that is the Format Painter. And the final thing then, as I feel obliged to do something mildly technical involving numbers, is I'm going to show you how GoalSeek works. But before doing that, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Right then, what I'm going to do next then is do something to this sheet. Ta-da! Here's one I created earlier. And what I'm going to do here is use GoalSeek. It's a really cute, really easy tool, but incredibly useful. It's the kind of thing that you could use if you just want to know the answer to a question. It's almost worth just going into Excel and just bunging the numbers in, using GoalSeek and coming out again. And sometimes it can be handy for just solving daft problems. So what we've got here is a really simple spreadsheet where there's a cost of a product, and this would be for someone that wants to sell a product in a store. and they say, okay, we need to make an amount of profit on it. And if I put in there, say, £20 profit, then this will become the selling price, and then this will be the VAT, and then this will be the price that goes on the shelf. Actually, that was a really bad thing to put in there because that's made it look really easy. And so the thing is that the company wants to make profit on it, but they actually want to retail it for £199.99. So you can either use a pretty straightforward calculation, but it'll take a bit of time, or you can just use a bit of trial and error and go, what if we make £19.50 profit? That's not enough. And so £19.10, and then you can just keep tinkering until you get the right answer. And that's really time wasting and tedious. And so what GoalSeek does is it does that tedious bit for you. And so if you look at that profit figure and go, right, I want that figure in E3 to equal something that will make this figure in E7 equal 199.99. So then you can click on either of them, or it doesn't even really matter which one you click on. But if I go to data and I go to what if analysis, then there's a drop down and it launches GoalSeek. If I click on GoalSeek, now in here, if I move it out of the way, if I can get to the right bit of the screen, there we go. Here it says set cell. Well, that's the cell that I want to set, E7. And what value do I want it to be? I want it to be £199.99. And which cell will I change to achieve that? Well, the only cell that I can effectively change is the profit figure, the amount of profit that I want to put in there. And so if I select profit now and click on OK, it'll whiz through. Bing, and there we go. I can do it for exactly £199.99 by setting my profit margin at £19.32. And so it's the sort of thing that you normally wouldn't use in a situation like this. You'd use it something much more complex, maybe on a payroll sheet or something. You think like, oh, you know, this situation really needs the person to take home this much money. Let's have a tinker with the figures and see what their hourly rate should be. And it just saves you working everything back. And then if you get the right answer, you can say, okay. Or here, if you sort of said, if you had some really bizarre requirement where you go, well, I only want to pay £40 in VAT when I sell this product, then you could just go, click on the cell that you want to change, go to what if analysis, go to GoalSeek and say, right, I want the VAT to equal £40. And the only thing I can change is the amount of profit that I'm making. And if I click on OK, it'll whiz through the figures. There we go. When I say OK, I get that bizarre combination of figures. And that's GoalSeek. So it's a handy little tool, which is one of those things that's just worth remembering. Now, as per your request, we will do mail merge, but as it is, as I've already waffled on long enough now, I'll do mail merge tomorrow if that's okay. If I can lure you back for another day, Michelle, then
Yes, of course.
I'll justify your appearance by going through mail merge again. But also tomorrow, I think I'm going to do other exciting things. Yeah, word macros. So the plan for tomorrow is to do a mildly technical day in Word. So I'll do the mail merge again that we did before and run through it so that hopefully it makes more sense.